Welcome to Black Voices Network. This is your boy, Dr. Hood Scholar. We are in a hot conversation. Today, we are talking about HBCUs and dress codes. Of course, at this time, if you're breathing and you spend any time watching any type of media, you are very aware of the ongoing conversation that the president of Tuskegee just put out in reference to the standard that he wants to set at Tuskegee University, right? So I have two distinguished HBCU affiliates with us today. So as Dr. Hill Scholar and Black Voices Network, our goal is to elevate Black voices. And what we really wanted to focus in on today are people who are actually affiliated with an HBCU, right? So we wanted to have an insider conversation about what's actually going on in HBCUs to respond to this general conversation. So y'all, let's jump into it, right? So first, all right. So what's actually going on? What's the dress code? What's going on? Talk to me, Brandon. Talk to me, Jamila.
Well, first, I want to say I am a graduate of Langston University in Langston, Oklahoma. That's where I will start. But the actual code, which I don't feel is wrong, says that violating university dress code, which requires attire in good taste and appropriate for an academic environment. Specific guidelines prohibit sleepwear in academic areas, certain headwear inside buildings, and sagging pants in academic facilities. That is what the actual dress code is.
So everybody see what the actual dress code is, because part of the ongoing conversation is they're not talking about this, they're talking about what people are talking about,
Yeah,
right?
people are bringing up like, oh, if you're going to the caf and you have on pajamas or a bandana, like nobody's talking about saying you have to get fully dressed to go get your breakfast. We're saying in an academic environment, which is the classroom, you should be dressed for success. I don't think it's anti-Black to have standards.
Mm. And that's the part I want to come back to, right? Because a lot of this conversation is surrounding anti-blackness and the white gaze. Dr. Gamble, what are you seeing? What's going on from your perspective with this conversation?
Well, first, it's just good to be with y'all and connecting this morning. I'm coming to you from the Association of Black Psychologists Convention today, and we're here at Morgan State. So we are at a historically Black college and university. And what's interesting to me is that, several professors, if you are a college professor, you very likely attended a historically Black college or university.
Yeah.
And if you're a Black professor anywhere, that's usually how it went. I'm an alum of a historically Black college, Oakwood College in Huntsville, Alabama, now Oakwood University, the School of the Prophets.
Nice.
I sent both of my children there. I have two daughters, one of whom just graduated this year, and she's a medical doctor. The other, she's a musical artist. And if you know Oakwood delivers that strong musical background. And both of them are very, very different, by the way, but they also understood the power of their HBCU and how it would connect. I'm very curious about this conversation, particularly as a social scientist. Like, why is this impactful now? What is going on
Mm.
now that has folks really coming for Tuskegee? I've been an
Right.
educator for over 30 years, so I've seen moments like this. The first
Mm.
time I saw this was in Long Beach Unified School District, where I became a school psychologist in the late 90s. And they had in 1995 became the first school district to start with requiring students to wear uniforms. And many of the same critiques of that moment I see today around one university, Tuskegee. And what's interesting, and we talked about this before, is the sense of, and I'm going to say it out loud. I haven't really said it out loud, but sovereignty that these Black folk
Right.
who run a Black institution have to go ahead and make some decisions. But yet everyone, it seems on social media, seems to have some real hard critique of the
Yeah.
direction that they're trying to go.
Right. And so let's zoom in on that right now, right? And to me, and shout out, I went to Virginia Union University on my master's, and I would say, actually, on a side note, going to HBCU tricked me because I had both one of my best experiences in higher education and one of my most revolutionary experiences in higher education at an HBCU, right? And so I thought that's how higher education was, and I come to learn that no, that's how it is in HBCUs, right?
Mhm.
But getting back on track, right? For me, and that's why I wanted to bring the panel together. That's my biggest issue. That so many people who have never attended an HBCU, their children don't go to an HBCU, their parents didn't go to an HBCU. They may have had a friend or a cousin or colleague, right? But they are not on the inside, are critiquing what's going on at HBCU.
Mhm.
That's my biggest issue, right? What you thinking, Melo?
I just think I made a post on Twitter where I was like, people seem to not realize that HBCUs are about respectable politics, mixed
Okay.
illness. They have a job to prepare us and our children, the young adults, to go into a world that is built against them and
Mm,
how to succeed while also teaching them that they are exceptional, that they are great,
yeah,
that they are
yeah,
not less than, but they
yeah,
have to give them the tools to fight against the society
mm,
that we live in.
yeah,
And that's where the disconnect is because they keep trying to like, oh, they know, they do, they gonna do it. And it was just an article last year. A girl went viral because she got turned away from an interview because she showed up in shorts.
yeah,
And it was too many of her peers in the comments not understanding why she was turned away for wearing shorts. They, yes,
yeah,
do need to step in and be like, this is what's appropriate.
yeah.
And people that have never been in it, because I went to a HBCU. I ain't never seen nobody come to class with a bonnet or a do-rag.
Yeah.
We did see is they would come to class dressed like they was going to the club. We like that would be more of an issue than people
Yeah.
their pajamas because you was gonna get side eye. First, you in the South. When you're raised
Oh, yeah.
with certain values, like women can't go outside with your hair not done and unkept.
Mhm.
You
Right.
so people gonna look at you, and it ain't got nothing to do with white folks. It got to do with being around other Black people,
Yeah.
and
You-
they can't picture us doing it for us because they've had to do it for the white people for so long.
Yeah, I want to jump in right there, then let you respond, Brandon. I think a part of this that a lot of people missing, and you nailed it, Jamila, when you talked about there's a Southern cultural aspect to this too, right? So most of the HBCUs are situated from basically the South up to the East, right? And correct me if I'm wrong. Do we have any HBCUs on the West Coast?
Not they try to have Black colleges, but there are not any historical
Like
Black
officially?
that are not
What you
in.
about to say, Brandon?
We have a predominantly Black institution on the West Coast. We have two in the Los Angeles area. One
Yeah.
was Compton Community College, and the
Okay.
other was Charles Drew or the King Drew Hospital, which teaches folks to earn their medical degrees. Those are
Got
only
you.
two
Got you.
on the
But
West Coast.
they're
Got you.
HBCUs. They are predominantly Black.
Predominantly black. Right. 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 So part of it is like there's a southernness that's associated with it, right? And then that's the other thing. All HBCUs aren't the same, right? They just act like Tuskegee, like, okay, we can talk about Tuskegee, and Tuskegee represent all 100 plus HBCUs.
And
And
so
each, oh,
I
go
would
ahead, Millie.
that would be like an Ivy League version of an HBCU.
Yeah,
Tuskegee, Hampton, schools like that are not just the typical HBCU.
yeah, yeah. What you about to say? Oh, nothing again.
Man, I just, Tuskegee has become an avatar for so many different things that are going on
Mm,
with all of us intergenerationally,
yeah,
and particularly
right, right.
for Black folks. I see this at the institution I'm at. I'm at Cal State University San Bernardino. I'm the director of the Office of Black Student Success. And some of the conversation we have is how can we bridge the gap between students and faculty? I will say, because I was a faculty member and administrator at my alma mater, Oakwood University,
Oh,
from
oh yeah. Talk to
2021 to
us.
2024, while my
Yeah,
daughters were going to school there as well. And so there is this gap in between. And really, I'm speaking more as someone who I sat in the classroom with a lot of the students. It was the most accountable I'd ever been. So,
wow.
folks from all around the country, and if you're familiar with most HBCUs, they're also international, right? So
Yeah,
they're
they
in
are.
the South, but you have folks from the Caribbean, you have folks from
Yeah,
Africa, you have folks from India and some other places who are sometimes there. They came for a visa or many other reasons, but they're there teaching. So the environment is very, very different than a typical environment that folks may find in Los Angeles, in
right, right.
Miami, in Philadelphia, in
New York.
New York, Detroit,
Yeah,
and particularly New York, Detroit, Philly, because many students who are coming down were coming from those places, and also even Toronto, Canada, right?
yeah,
And but they were looking for a particular Black experience. And so when that Black experience is different than what they had expected, sometimes there's some tension. And I know as being
yeah.
an instructor in a classroom on the HBCU, there are times where I never want to embarrass a student, but I would have a conversation,
Mm,
say, hey, you come back to class smelling like whatever herb that you had this morning. I'm not talking about last night. I'm not talking about last week. I'm talking about this morning. You're going to miss out on what you need. So
mm,
let's take that, for lack of a better term, a little higher for you, raise your own consciousness and come to class
yeah,
how you would think you'd need to come for your career, because I'm prepping you for graduate school. I didn't have to have a
yeah.
hard conversation, but students would shift how they dressed, how
Wow,
they
that's
approached
beautiful.
the classroom. So the last piece I'd say is it's a low grade level of disrespect that you would come into my space where I work as an instructor, and I'm going to teach you something that's of value about
Mm,
my career path, my profession,
yeah,
and in a Black environment, that you think so little of me that you'd show up in this way. That's
yeah,
one perspective that an
yeah.
instructor can definitely have. And I've had days like that. Other days, I'm like, I'm glad you came.
Right.
But there are some days where I feel like you're disrespecting not just me, but everyone in the room
Yeah,
by not even approaching it as if it's of value.
yeah. Let me
And
let me ask you this question because you're at a PW. Hold on, you want to say something, Miller?
I would say at least smoke before you get dressed for class, at the very least.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this, Dr. Gamble, because you're at a PWI now, right?
It is a Hispanic serving institution,
Oh, you're at a
what I
Hispanic.
like to
Okay,
call a
I got you.
historically white institution.
I got you. So you're at an HWI.
Yeah,
Um, now,
HSI.
do you have some of the similar conversations in those spaces that you had in
I
HBCUs?
very, very similar. I mean, and so I've been doing this for 30 years, so I'm going to treat all students the same, all the students I have. And so no matter where you come from, I'm seeking for a higher standard for you.
Yeah,
And I have Hispanic students, I have white students, but
right.
particularly my charge is working with Black students at our campus where I'm at. And I want them to strive for the best and demonstrate that. So I have students who work in my office also, and I encourage them, if you're going to come to work, think about how you would want to be approached by someone. Do you want
Yeah,
it to be approached as this is just some other thing that you do, or you've come to deliver your best to those folks? So I have students who are mentors to other students. So I let them, we had a conversation though about setting the standard. And my sense
Yeah.
is Tuskegee's going to have a conversation at the end of the semester about how this whole new standard is going and how
Right.
they're meeting that standard. Every generation has some of this. I know
Yeah.
alumni from my university had conversations in the 70s about the afros and the dashikis that students wanted to wear to class.
Right.
And
Right.
like there were hard conversations and some I don't know if there was a movie made, but I know we had like folks wrote books about this
Yeah.
serious moment. So we're having another one of those moments. I believe it
Yeah.
will pass, but I think there's something
Indefinitely.
serious going on with our whole culture right now about how we are preparing the next generation. Because and this last thing I'll say is that most of the administrators are from Gen X. These are our
Yeah.
kids right now.
Yeah.
So, and we're the Freaknik generation.
Right.
So there is a tension there. And they're like, well, y'all did this. Why can't we just be who we are? Right.
Yeah.
And we have to resolve that somehow.
I
It's
think. Oh, go
the
ahead, Mel.
I don't think they know how to turn it on and off like millennials and Gen Xers. Like we knew how to be ratchet outside and come to class, and your professors never even know that you have that side to you. And I think that is very important. And what is missing is that they just feel like you're supposed to be able to be you at all times. And my thing is, this is for your career, is certain ways that you cannot act and have a professional career regardless, unless you're trying to be an entrepreneur
Yeah.
and run your own business where you don't answer to anybody. Respectable politics come into play, and we have to equip our children with the skills and the knowledge to know how to code switch and do everything, and that takes training. I don't think that that's something that is natural to everybody.
I've heard some folks say that code switching is something that they don't even want to do. They think that's a problem. They feel that that's oppressive to have to code switch. So this is a huge generational shift
Yeah, and
where folks don't believe in having a time and a place. They think they determine all times and all places. And if I show up as it is, and you should accept me as I am. But my only question is, so what's your outcomes? What do you ultimately want from this? Yeah.
yeah, I definitely believe HBCUs. I don't know any that don't have these dress code. Like this isn't a new dress code to Tuskegee or any other HBCU. And they would, do you know how mad they would be at my school? If you was a business major, you had to dress in business casual every single day for every single class. They just want you to come to class in jeans and a t-shirt. That's like they don't understand how deep these HBCUs can really get with what they require. You mad because you can't wear your bonnet, and it's people that had to go out and buy slacks and shirts that they never owned before because they decided they wanted to do business management as they major.
All right. So it's three things. I want to highlight one of each of what y'all said and then go on to the third one. One, I think so, and I want to give y'all a chance to respond to this. So for you, Dr. Gamble, there's this, for some reason, there seems to be this onus that's saying we're only doing this respectability politics stuff where the professors are policing the students at HBCUs. But what you're saying is, what I hear you saying is you care about your students' success. So for you, is not so much about let me police your dress code per se, but you said that both HBCU and predominantly Hispanic or what you call HWI institution, you operated both the same way because you was focused on the success of your student. Is that an appropriate explanation, or how would you respond to that?
Yes, I was looking up their goals that the president of Tuskegee wanted, and it's very similar, right? University administration states that the policy aims to build professional standards and prepare students for the corporate workforce. Now, folks may say, well, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to be an influencer. That's still part of that corporate workforce. Corporation is, you can start your own individual corporation, but then you still have to conduct business. I can actually dress down a little bit working at a university, particularly on the West Coast. But I think going back regionally, you have to be aware of who your customer is, who
Yeah.
your contacts are regionally, who your contacts are locally. And then when you need to turn it up for certain business environments, when you need to, kind of be more casual in certain business environments, but you need to have some opportunities to raise those standards. One of the things I loved about Oakwood, but it also pushed me, was we had to get up for church at a certain time and go to worship so many times per week. We're a predominantly Christian institution.
Mhm.
The current president of Oakwood last year brought this back. So all the alumni weren't up people. So because most of the folks who are online who are interested in HBCUs aren't necessarily worried about a Christian requirement, they didn't have this conversation. But our students and their parents had the conversation.
Yeah.
And there's kind of this interesting dynamic that remains about what are you going to do when you're done? What are the opportunities that you have? People are paying, and the Howard University issue as well brought up, people pay a lot of money to send their kids to an HBCU, particularly a private institution,
Right.
right? What's going to be your return on your investment in your time there? If you never stretch yourself to be dressed on time at 8 a.m., it's going to be a hard, rude awakening when you have a 9 to 5 job where you need to be dressed and ready to go, or you need to be there before your supervisor so you can come and demonstrate that you know your subject matter at 7 a.m., at 8 a.m., and be ready to go, right? So there does need to be a push. However, this generation is very different. So finding a way to have that I'm a professional educator, so I got to find ways to get across these same messages. And some of that I think is having conversations with students about, okay, here's the scenario. How are you going to approach that? Now, on the other
Yeah.
end, I'm going to bring in, and this I've seen be very effective. My colleague down at San Diego State, Dr. Rachel Stewart, she is the faculty scholar for the Black Resource Center at San Diego State. And then the director there is Malcolm Oliver, and he's outstanding as well. And I used to be at San Diego State. So they have a funding source that's given by philanthropic donations, but specifically works on career path direction. And what they do is they have a Black career fair. So they bring folks in to interact with our students. And there's about 400 Black students who participate in this career fair from San Diego State. Once they realize that, oh, I got to show up ready to interview, I got to show up ready for this job experience. And then they get those internships. You see their dress standards raise on their own. They have that
Yeah.
conversation. So my sense is,
Yeah.
and I'm hoping like Spelman and Morehouse, because I know they have a lot of internships, that Tuskegee will have folks who hire students or who give business entrepreneurs opportunities. And they'll
Yeah.
come and talk about what they're looking for a standard of dress, for a standard of behavior in regards to their cell phones at work. What Tuskegee's, and if you read Booker T, this is what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Being able to compete in the marketplace. Now,
Mhm.
there's all these pieces about capitalism, and you can deconstruct all those things.
Right.
And whenever
Right.
folks start deconstructing, my question is, great, what are you going to construct? And
Right.
I'll end with this last piece. Too many of
Yeah.
us have made our identity about what's wrong and about our own complaint. So our complaint becomes our identity. Our complaint that
Mm.
I should be able to do whatever the heck I want to do, and you're stopping me from being able to do what I want to do. So that becomes the whole focus of our activities. Whereas there has to come a point where I should also be able to build. And when I start to build, I have to cooperate with other people. When I cooperate with other people, I have to use a language. We're having this whole conversation in English. Yes, this is the oppressor's language. And I
Yeah.
seek out opportunities to learn African languages and
Yeah, I did
sharing
the
those
same
things.
thing.
I'm doing that here at the Association of Black Psychologists Convention.
That's dope.
However, this is what I know, and this is what the people know, and this is what I will share. Just like the
That's
Black Panther
amazing.
Party for self-defense. Now, and I'm pausing on that because they had berets, they had suits, but they had to earn that, and they used that in a very political way. I'm wondering
Yeah,
what the students at Tuskegee will do to demonstrate their political power and knowledge. I'm looking forward to that.
yeah, that was good, Doc. Go ahead, Mila.
I just wondered, like, at my school when I was there, every major that we had to do an internship for graduation. No matter what your major was, you
Yeah,
left with job experience. And so because a lot of people now they're using this excuse like they requiring all of this and it ain't even no jobs out there. And for the most part, I feel like if, especially at a HBCU like that, if you do right in college, you're setting yourself up for future employment. If
yeah,
you doing internships while you're in undergrad, most of the times, if you're doing good, that's your job when you graduate. Like I have a lot of friends that came straight out of college into good government jobs because they interned there. They
yeah.
were, they, it's not, I don't know how people, I don't know what they expect for college to be doing. Like, how do they not expect for it to have some type of standard of where they want you to meet? Like, this is not a lower,
If you want to go into this white working world.
it's education. Like, no matter,
Yeah,
don't understand how they don't expect us to raise the bar for our kids and tell them to reach it instead of us lowering it so that they can get there. I think we should have I don't, that's my whole thing. I need somebody to explain to me why Black people having standards is anti-Black.
so Jamil, let me jump in right here because a lot of the viewers don't know you. I know you, right? Dr. Gamble, just so you know, the reason why I know Jamila, because we actually did organizing work, right? So Jamila was outside, right? I've been outside. Jamila was so we both were part of this organization, especially during the Ferguson uprising in St. Louis, right? Dealing with tear gas, fighting with the police, all of that stuff. Last thing me and Jamila worked on, one of our comrades got arrested when protesting for Breonna Taylor.
Yeah.
So she was up in Chicago. I was in Virginia. We were working with him in Louisville because he's arrested. He got arrested, right? So I think what happens is when people are having these conversations, a lot of them just talking. But another thing I want you to talk about, Jamila, because what they're trying to say is they're basically trying to HBCUs are trying to form black people based on the white gaze, and they're just sticking them into this respectability politics. But you just said I already talked about how Jamila was outside doing work, but you said Jamila talking about turning on and off. Now you talked about how there's times when you might be ratchet, right? Can you
Yeah.
talk about that?
Even like I can break it down. Even I've worked in customer service most of my life. I did Sprint technical support for 5 years. And even on the phone, I can get some customers and I'm going to talk to them like, yes, of course. Yes. What can I do to help you? Exactly. Get some calls and I could be like a little more ebonics. I could put a little,
Yeah, girl.
like they would understand more and they would react and we would be able to have a conversation back and forth being just me. And that was okay for them. Everybody can't get the same version of me. Not
Yeah,
saying they're not all me, but everybody isn't entitled to
mm,
every
yeah,
version.
that's good. That's
And
good.
that's like, yeah, I used to always be like, I'm a twerking activist. I'm going to be outside throwing ass, having fun. And at the same time, my degree is in criminal justice. So when it comes time to talk to the police officers, I was able to do that and articulate my point and explain to them exactly where they had us messed up and why.
Yeah.
And they was able to listen because
Mm,
what was coming out of my mouth came with statistics. It came with facts. It came
mm,
what came behind it.
yeah.
I think I don't think that it's so much of like you have to turn into, you should be all of these things. You should be a professional
I
person.
see what you're saying. Having all those different skills in the tool belt.
Yeah, you should have all of these things that's inside of you and you just pull it out. When I go to church, I'm not going to talk to my pastor the way that I'm going to talk to the guy on the corner that I know is selling weed. It's
Yeah.
just not how it goes. You get more honey, you get more flies with honey. His honey don't taste like his.
Yeah.
And that's where I think I just don't, I don't know why they feel like any standard that we set is we're trying to have a white gaze. Like, I feel embarrassed going to the store with my bonnet on if I'm making a quick run and they took it off. I usually feel too embarrassed and take it off in the car before I actually go in. Like, okay, this is too ratchet. And I'm not even around black people. I mean, white people. I live on the south side of Chicago off of 79th and Halsted. It ain't nothing but a bunch of black people and niggas. And it, like, I don't understand why they always think that everybody is trying to do this for the white gaze. It's just
Yeah.
have a standard. We
Yeah.
have standards. We don't have to be ratchet, ghetto, bonnet wearing. Like, I don't know. And like I said, I was raised by my grandmother. You comb your,
Yeah.
you wash your face to go outside at the very least.
Yeah.
I said that when Monique was having a discussion. The problem is grandmothers is too young nowadays, so they're not teaching
Mm.
the younger generations properly.
Mm.
Because that's my whole thing. School shouldn't even have to have a dress code if parents are doing their job and teaching kids what presentable is and how they're supposed to present themselves to the world, how they're supposed to represent you as a parent. Like, you my kid, you represent me. I can't send you outside looking any kind of crazy way because then that reflects me. I don't know. That's just
He
my
was cooking while he Dr. Gamble.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sorry, I'm just gonna
yeah.
let her go.
No, that was good. And you brought up parents. I just wanted to share a few things from what I learned working in a school district that went with the school policy for uniforms and requirements. So in Long Beach, it was focused on elementary and middle school students, not high school students. Eventually, some of the high schools adopted it because they had really strong data that it reduced the fights and suspensions, but also increased students' academic work, particularly in schools where we never had like a 50% Black student population, but we had as high as 20 or 30% Black student population. I worked at one of those high schools and ran a youth mentoring program, particularly for young men. But here's what I think some of the critique comes from, and it comes maybe from a good place. But one of the principals who I knew, older white man, liberal, right? A lot of liberal
Yeah.
do-gooders, right? If we're talking about the white gaze, usually that's kind of what we're looking at here.
Mhm.
He said, I thought it was trying to solve a complex social issue with a real simplistic answer. So a lot of the critiques that I have on my Facebook page right now are people talking about like, hey, we have bigger issues to worry about than bonnets and do-rags. We have the Voting Rights Act issue going on. We have capitalism going on. And those are important things. But I think in the midst of all that, folks lose what's happening with those students from day to day. A middle school student or even a new college student might say, I hate this. I can't stand this because you're restricting my freedom. A real good college environment should challenge you to take advantage of new opportunities. And just like you're talking about, and so one of the things I used to have to tell my students, I say, all right, if you show up to 10 minutes of class early, I'm going to put you up on game. Here's some of the game. You can't party from Thursday to Sunday exclusively and then show up on Monday and keep your grades up. You at some point you're going to have to, as you were just talking about, code switch a bit or even switch up your time. If
Mhm.
you know you got to get at least 2 hours of studying in, you got to go to the club at 11. You got to study from
Right.
9 to 11. You got to block
Right.
everybody out and bring some folks over, the same people who you're coming with. And for the sisters I talk about, you get ready during that time. Whatever you got to put on, whatever you gotta, or whatever you got to work out, you get ready during that time, but you also quiz each other. So
Yeah.
you know how to work this thing. So you can get to the club by 11:30 or 12 and turn that place out, be able to wake up again at 9 a.m., go ahead and study, make it to brunch if you need to. However you're going to live that life, but you got to find your balance. And very few of them are getting that real clear conversation, but there's a huge generational divide. And I think we still need to have that conversation. A couple other things that I think are valid critiques. Back in the 1990s, they were looking at the dress code and they were saying this is going to reduce crime, but why is the only emphasis on crime? You have to make that connection to the academic success of those students. So I'm hoping that Tuskegee and any other university or any other program for Black students at a college focuses in on, okay, what are we doing to help improve their lives? Okay, we're asking them to make some changes. We're asking them to push themselves. Right. There should be a reward at the end. And this is just me being the educational psychologist. I'm looking for that really hard data set that says this is a better situation for them. And I think right now they're suffering from a public relations issue where they didn't have that conversation. But at the core of who we are, we really have difficulty with our own identity. So, as a member of the Association of Black Psychologists, our journal, and we do a review of our journal like every decade. The last 2 decades, our journal has mostly been about Black identity and Black identity issues. And it's probably the most empirical thing that we do is discuss our own identities. And we have several studies on that, but we're still struggling, particularly here in America, with who we are. And we need to come to some resolution on that of how we prepare that next generation, and especially when we get what we want, when we're doing what we want to do at this very high level. And so the most interesting conversation I'm having on my Facebook page right now is everybody asking is what the standard is. What's the standard for Black college students? We need to figure that out. And I don't think we've really hashed that out. There are some people who might have it, but I'm just concerned that the people who actually are tasked with the job are getting disrespected while they're trying to make a decision. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, at minimum for the next 6 months to a year.
That's and we're gonna land it around that point, right? Because as a professor, I'm also a professor at HBCU. As a professor of HBCU, both attended one, taught the other ones. People really know what's going on campus, right? And I'm sure you probably can speak to this too, Dr. Gamble. Your your previous HBCU. What was the teaching load? Was it 4 to 5 classes?
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So professors have high teaching loads, right? We have nowhere near the amount of resources
Low
that
pay.
PWIs have, right?
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
talking about you want so, and I know several HBCUs who are trying to just make R2 status, right? Not even trying to make R1 status, trying to make R2 status because you're trying to balance a heavy teaching load with low resources, right? At my shout out to Virginia Union, right? But when I was going through my master's program, we had 3 administrators for a 400 student master level program. Think about that. 3 people trying to run a whole entire mass. And this was one of the most vibrant Samuel DeWitt Proctor School of Theology. Shout out to the MDF for VUU. We put out a lot of great both scholars and preachers and professors, etc. But if we had Miss Good, Dr. Martin, and then my bad 4, the assistant dean and the dean. So you think
But
about that. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say a lot of that is because the professors aren't going past their masters. They're getting hired on at a master's level. And how can you teach a master's level class when all you have is the masters?
So we was fortunate at Virginia Union. We had a lot of doctorate professors. But yeah, you're right. And other institutions, right? It's like all, and that's my other critique. A lot of these people critiquing HBC, a lot of these professors critiquing HBCUs wouldn't teach at an HBCU. So I'm like, yeah, sure, critique. You critiquing with your 2-2 or 2-1, or maybe 3. What's the biggest course load you heard at a PWI, Dr. Gamble?
Oh man, I had a chance to do a three by
Okay.
three.
So,
And
at most you're
I
doing a
got a
350
grant.
course
Yeah,
load.
the folks were able to get grants, and they were going
Right.
for R1 status at our institution. But then I shifted from there and went to an HBCU and saw my colleagues doing five. Now I was an administrator, but I saw my colleagues
Right.
doing five, as many as five courses. So they and many of them had their doctorates, but at the same time, they're not getting the same amount of pay. They're trying to live their life and just holding on. And then here's the other, important burden that we're called upon when you go to the mission field, for lack of a better term, at an HBCU. What you're giving is your time and your energy, inviting students to your house, making sure that they have a meal, checking
Right.
in on them and their family members as well, their babies, sometimes their children who may be in the classroom with you. It's a different experience. And and as someone who taught at an HBCU, who attended an HBCU, when
Yeah.
people start saying anything bad about it, I said, I'm gonna cut you off right there. You got all these questions about what's happened at HBCU. And my first question is, when's the last time you went to an HBCU campus? When's the last time you put just even $5 in an HBCU student's hand? Before you begin to start critiquing those folks, when's the last time you called one of your colleagues and say, hey, let's publish together? I know you may not have all the same resources I have. I got 2 or 3 graduate students who may
Right.
be able to help us do this qualitative or quantitative research
And
study.
you have a TA for your 2-2 teacher
Yeah,
load.
yeah, 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 yeah. And you have a TA. And I know you're working hard, and I know you need to publish or want to publish and really move forward. When's the last time you reached out to them? Man, I'm speaking to the choir right here. I'm speaking to
Right.
myself because I know I need to do that.
Go ahead, Jamila.
Just wanted to add one thing too about the dress codes. It's messed up because of the lower level schools. They are no longer allowed to really give dress codes to high school, middle school kids.
Mm.
How back in our day, we had things like couldn't your shorts had to be fingertip length. You couldn't wear this. You couldn't wear that. They
I see.
do that now. They basically have told them that telling them what they can't wear is sexualizing minors.
Mm.
So they are in school now. You will see them wearing all types of stuff.
Wow.
Even with the uniforms, they come in, they uniforms is legging pants because they just have to have black bottoms. So
Yeah.
they wearing a leggings and a t-shirt and some Crocs to school.
Yeah.
The dress code for the lower level education has changed so much compared to what we had, like 3 fingertips of the show, like all of that is out the window.
Yeah. Wow. And let me jump in right there, and we're about to close it off. The other thing is HBCUs have one of the largest number of first generation students, right? I know for the HBCU I work at, we have the largest percentage of students on grants, right?
Mhm.
And this shows that the socioeconomic level of students, right? Which is crazy. So the critique of Tuskegee was that there have been elitists and that there's a class conversation when it comes to HBCUs, where in fact a lot of HBCUs accept some of the highest number of low income Black students.
At my HBCU, they did whatever they needed to get you in. If you didn't have the grades in high school, you didn't have
Right.
the AT scores, they have zero level classes they gonna put you in. They were going to make sure that they could get you up to college standard if you weren't already there.
And one of my classes, so I teach public speaking sometime, right? And in public speaking, the standard is you're supposed to dress up for when you do your public speaking presentation. I've literally had students who did not have dress codes
Mhm.
for their public speaking presentation. That's why I'm like, y'all have no idea what's actually going on inside of an HBCU,
And they
right?
not saying you gotta dress up. They said don't wear sleep clothes and bonnets.
Right, right, right.
Like that gives you a whole range. The
Yeah.
way they Then you think they said you got to come to class in a 3-piece suit and
Right.
dress every day.
Yeah. I saw on Tuskegee's, they have a clothing closet for
Oh,
business attire,
oh, that's
right?
good.
At
That's
Cal State
good.
University San Bernardino, our Pan-African Student Success Center, and at San Diego State. These are two places where I've worked out here in the West Coast. They both have a clothing opportunity for their students to dress professionally for various
Yeah.
events. When I worked in Long Beach School District, the school with the top achieving students actually had clothes that were available so students didn't have any reason why they missed out on wearing the school uniform, and donations were made. I know Tuskegee is asking for donations to their business attire. So for those
Wow.
who
There
really
we
want to
go.
support Tuskegee and who have questions about whether or not students are able to maintain this standard, it's there. I, you know, I was thinking about the Nation of Islam when folks were talking about this as a white supremacist stamp. I'd be hard pressed to call, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad or Malcolm X or Louis Farrakhan as being someone who was seeking out the white gaze in their
Right.
clothing and attire. And I found this quote by Malcolm X or El Hajj Ali al-Shabazz. And here it goes. It showed me how any country's moral strength or its moral weakness is quickly measurable by the street attire and attitude of its women, especially its young women. Now, take that where you will, because Malcolm also said that the black woman is the most oppressed as well, right? But I'm just taking that in some level of context in regards to overall how the Nation of Islam approached uplifts for black people. They had a particular thing that they were doing when it came to code switching, but also imagery and power in that imagery. So Tuskegee is taking a stand that has inspired a hard and interesting conversation for Black people. I'm curious as to what we do from here. I'm hoping by this time next year, we'll come up with something new and innovative in relation to where are our young people going and what is the standards we want for them? What are the outcomes? I'm really thinking even more about the outcomes. I'm updating our student handbook for the Office of Black Student Success where I work, and so I'm really going to think about what are the outcomes we want for our students. And I hope people support our students as well as our faculty and staff all the more.
Yeah, I think that was real good, Dr. Gam. We're gonna grade it close. For me, and let me say this. I think some of the critiques are valid. And I was talking to my wife about this earlier, how I actually that back when I was high school, college, I used to wear do-rags. But what it was, and I don't know if y'all remember like I was literally in high school and college in the 99 to 2000s, right? So y'all remember the franchise boys and y'all remember when people used to they had the do-rag on, did a fitted cap on top, and it was styled. So I used to wear do-rags like that, right? And I could see how somebody could say, I mean, our kids don't do it now. I shouldn't say kids. Young adults don't dress like that now. But I could see a valid reason why somebody could say, I'm not wearing inappropriate attire if I have my do-rag style over my fitted cap. Sean, quick question, Dr. Gamble, do you remember those days?
Look, I had students show up to my class during those days. And
Ah,
I would ask a simple question,
yeah,
which would usually cause them to respond in a certain way. But I'd
yeah.
say, are you going to arrive somewhere else where you're going to sport those waves? And they'd say, well, yeah. Well, then treat my class and
All right,
your class as if
I
this
got
is an important place to be where you can show those waves off. Especially if it was
you.
one of my psychology classes. And if I'm talking to a young man, I'd say, hey, if
I
you're
got
trying to impress young women, take your do-rag off while you're in the
you.
classroom, at least, so they can see some of those waves. Show up on time, show up
But were
ready.
they wearing the do-rag with the fitted cap though?
Oh, they were doing it all. Fitted cap
Okay.
and hoodie.
Because that's the thing. That was a part of the outfit though, right? That's why
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
reminiscing. I'm just
yeah,
remember like
yeah.
because I used to style. I had the fitted cap that matched the jersey, and the
Hmm.
do rag was the color of the jersey. So it's
Oh,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. No,
yeah,
no. And the do-rags were taking it up to another level. And I
yeah,
would say sometimes, man, if you coordinate, you coordinate it, work that out.
yeah.
However, if that's a part of your look, let's have a conversation about that. Because
Okay.
and we talk about their career path. Where's that going to go? But that'd be part of the game I'd have, and I'd connect with students from
Yeah. Do you have a final word,
Tuskegee.
Jamila? Because we'll let you close it out.
I don't know. I think we didn't say
I
just
know.
everything. Listen, because I still go back. I go to homecoming at my
Yeah.
HBCU. I go back to Oklahoma just to visit.
Mm.
And it is a lot of issues going on at HBCUs that should be addressed. There's a lot of issues, but there's a lot of pros that
Yeah.
comes with an HBCU that you don't get other places. That I think I had a friend, she had a senior year, a bill her senior year. She walked out of the library and happened to run into the president of the school and was like, I got a bill. Can you help me? Playing him. And
Mhm.
like, what's your name? Come to my office. Looked her up, saw she had a 3.88 and waived her whole entire bill for her so that she could graduate. Those are things that don't happen outside of HBCUs.
Rarely. Yeah, yeah. If
And
it
with that, we will close. This is Dr. Hood Scholar, Black Voices Network. Shout out to Jamila. Shout out to Dr. Brandon Gamble. Let's get free, y'all. Peace.